Hey everybody, Tony D and little Joan in the background enjoying a nice steak bone here with a hot take on, this article here from the LA Times. LAPD shootings of unstable people wielding sharp objects a deadly problem. Now you might look at that and say, of course it's a deadly problem. I mean, unstable people holding a knife or a sword or whatever. That's a problem because those people are unstable and they're holding something that could kill you. That's not what they mean, of course. No. In LA, in upside down clown world that we live in, the problem is police just keep shooting these people. I'm not for shooting the mentally ill. I've said many times that we need a better system of mental health, one where therapy would be readily available and encouraged to people, and that could be done through massive tax incentives. And tax incentives don't involve giving anybody any money. They simply involve, okay, you're going to be a therapist, you're going to be a licensed therapist. Okay, you don't have to pay taxes on any of your education. You don't have to pay taxes if you put up a shingle for therapy. You will pay no taxes. You won't pay taxes on the office. The people renting the office to you won't pay taxes. The people selling furniture to you will save money selling you furniture. Everything down the line could be tax incentivized to encourage more people to go into a business that we so desperately need, and that is tough. Then, on top of that, you could say to these same therapists, well, look, you make a tremendous amount of money already. How'd you like to pay even fewer taxes? You're already not paying taxes on a bunch of stuff. How about you save money on income tax? If you take a, say, homeless patient under your wing, you could mark that whole session off under your taxes. Now, we'd have to be careful. There'd have to be some standards in there. But encouraging that would definitely help. Because the problem is the mentally ill people. They are a problem. They have a problem. They are mentally ill. And they're not being treated. But listen to how the LA Times talks about the LAPD shooting people with deadly weapons. The end result of this not treating homeless people and just leaving them on the street endlessly. Still, problematic shootings where investigators have found officers made tactical errors and violated policies intended to reduce shootings have also occurred, driven in part by unpredictable and fast-moving incidents, officers perceiving threats as being more imminent than they were. Well, they're not mind readers. I'll give them that. In the heat of the moment, just like that poor people who were in the incident where the woman thought she had her taser and she instead pulled her gun. That's terrible. And she should be relieved of duty and punished in some way. I don't think they should throw the book at her. I think she made a mistake. But she made a pretty serious mistake. She's in a serious position. She should be punished in some way. But continuing the article, such shootings have continued despite increased efforts with LAPD and across America policing to better de-escalate such encounters. Let me read you that sentence again. Such shootings have continued despite increased efforts within the LAPD and across America policing to better de-escalate the encounters. They've continued. So the implication here is that you continue this at all, that anyone makes a mistake, there's the problem. Such shootings have continued. They haven't increased. They haven't said if they had increased, do you think they would not put that in the article? They would say such shootings have increased. But they just say such shootings have continued. Have they decreased, LA Times? The answer is probably yes for all the years, all the way up to 2020. And they'll be increasing now because, all kinds of reasons, but mostly because the country's unraveling. long-standing policies like the once common 21-foot rule, which held that anyone with a weapon within distance represented an imminent threat, have increasingly been dropped in favor of more nuanced rules that prioritize de-escalation techniques and the use of less lethal alternatives to deadly force. Yeah, but then there's the cop who recently just got run over because he decided, well, I'm not going to shoot this guy, and the guy ran him over. You know, and listen to this. Whether you find out later a person is schizophrenic or you just find out that they are pissed off and angry or have anger management problems, it doesn't matter, Ramsey said. You want to resolve it with the least amount of force as possible. Yeah. But the problem is, why are these people all over the streets being pissed off and angry? It's because they have no place to go. They have no therapy. They have no drugs. You have to take care of these people because they cannot take care of themselves. And no one is doing anything about it. The states come up with programs. Those programs never work because they're specifically designed to be these narrowly tailored things in a budget, in a bigger overall budget. So the politician can point to it and say, see, that's my program. We're doing something. If you tax incentivized therapy across the board so that therapy was just cheap, affordable, available everywhere, if you had people putting out shingles for therapy all over the place, begging for people, looking for patients, what would happen? You wouldn't see these guys all over the street angry. You would see them in therapy. Now, some of these people are not going to go to therapy willingly. But they certainly could be encouraged to if you made the therapy free for a homeless guy. You could say, how about this? How about a soup kitchen in which the recipients of the soup kitchen get therapy? Like, that's one of the requirements. Well, you can stay in the halfway house. You get a place to sleep and eat for X amount of days, but during that time, you must attend a therapy class or session each day. Find out how you're doing. Make sure you're not running around the street stabbing people at every opportunity. To make sure you're not psychotic or on the brink of breaking. Something. But this article is all about the cops and how the cops aren't doing enough. Look at this weapon. Look at this sword. A sword, the LAPD was taken off of Rommel Mendoza. Rommel Mendoza? What a name. After he was fatally shot. Look at the sword. Dude, he'll kill you with that thing. You could kill people with this thing. I mean, you're telling me to not shoot a guy who's swinging around this thing? He gets close to you? He's walking towards you threateningly? How many people, and I've argued with people who say, oh, you should shoot him in the leg. First off, it's like an impossible shot. Second off, you're just going to end up pissing the guy off. You know, there have been cops that, and I talked about this video, and it's an amazing video if you Google it. Cops confronted a guy with a knife, shot him a bunch of times. He fell down, got back up. Still was moving around. Eventually he gets a hold of one of the cops, and the cop had to put a bullet in his head to stop him. So when you're talking about somebody who's mentally unstable, the cops don't know if he's high, mentally unstable, murderous, or just weird. He could just be, having a breakdown at that particular moment. He might be a totally fine person otherwise, but the cops have no way of knowing that. They're not mind readers. And the LAPD is treating this like, well, is enough being done? That's not the issue at all with cops. Cops have too much power. When they're called because a guy is out of hand wandering the streets with a sharp object, we're well past the point of, is this guy innocent? When someone has to call the cops because somebody's marching down the street with a giant axe or a sword, he's off his nut. Because most people don't do that in 21st century America. There's no reason to do that. When he's swinging around a scimitar over his head, he is off his nut 99% of the time. Now, is that 100%? No, it might be a cosplayer with a sword. But those guys are supposed to put little corks on the end. They'll be in costume. There'll be some signatures. It won't be a guy who's in tattered rags screaming about the internet in his head. But this is LAPD, LA Times. The woke LA Times. Officers receive training on how to respond to different threats, including going through simulators that force them to make split-second decisions. Yeah, we could all do it. What's that going to do? I guess it might make you numb enough that you can make those split seconds decision easier. But ultimately, you're having an off day, you glance in the wrong direction. They are literally split-second decisions. Even people good at this, they mess up. I mean, the woman who shot that, I don't know what he was, car thief, I guess, and pulled her gun instead of the taser, she'd been on the force for 18 years. Something like that. I think almost 20. So, I mean, if she's going to make that mistake, really anybody can make a mistake. And the investigations are going to determine that. But what is LA Times doing here? Implying yet again, the cops have to do less. This guy was carrying a sword. He's off his nut. I don't want him to die. What are the cops supposed to do at this point? Why didn't anybody help him up to this point? Who gave him a sword? Why doesn't anybody ask these questions? You know, the girl who was shot and was about to stab one of her teenage friends, and the cop had to shoot her at the last second, was all in the news for a while. Cop made an amazing shot, by the way. She was literally winding up to stab this girl. Why aren't those parents being brought before a judge so the judge could say, how the hell did your kid end up this way? How the hell did your 16-year-old foster kid or daughter or whoever she was to them end up trying to stab another person? Someone should answer for that. And the answer is, they probably checked out. Probably spoiled her rotten. Which is why she was pretty obese, I think, for a 16-year-old kid. And her anger completely out of control, off the charts. I mean, when you go to kill somebody, your anger's off the charts. And you probably got some mental illness, some undiagnosed mental illness. Why didn't these parents do anything? How many incidents happened before this that led up to this, which ended into a police shooting? Why aren't there an investigation after the fact? Well, probably because the system's so overwhelmed and too busy throwing people in jail for drug and prostitution offenses. But that, to me, is where the problem lies. And no one's investigating that because no one cares. This is just another million articles for clickbait blaming some group instead of drilling down into the real problem. And the real problem is, in my view, mental health in this country. So, is Joe Biden going to fix that? I doubt it. I don't even think it's on his radar, quite frankly. But if it was, I would say, again, tax incentives to all the therapists out there. Get them to take these guys as patients. Make it so lucrative for them that they'll be willing to do whatever it takes to have one of these guys as a patient. To give them the drugs they need. Mark it all off on the taxes. All of it. 100%. And, give this guy his meds for free. Until he can either take care of himself or forever. Yeah. I think that's what should happen. Anyhow, that's the story. I'm Tony D. And on to the next video.